book besties, welcome back to my channel. If you guys have seen my face for the first time, hi, my name is Maya and I like to talk about books here on the internet. Y'all know what time it is. On the third day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 3 fall reads, 2 TBR games, and a very late reading rabbit. Hope you guys did enjoy that. That cringe is brought to you by my inner self that thought this was a great idea to do because it just showcased who I am and what I'm about. You know, I'm a cringy person that is okay with her cringe. And I love books and I love doing like little creative spin-offs because I don't have an original bone in my body. Now that we've got that existential crisis statement out of the way, let's get into BOOKMAS video. We are doing 3 fall reads. Bro, we already finished 1, so that's great. We're already off to a fantastic start. The 3 books that I am going to try to read is number 1, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, the original classic. Number 2, Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. Book number 3 is going to be a small short book. I don't think it's considered a short story because it's definitely over a certain number of pages. So I will say novella on the off chance that it is still considered a short story. My apologies. But it is, I believe, off the top of my head, Rita and Shawshank Redemption. I have the book. It is Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. Okay, so I wasn't that far off, by Stephen King, and I can't wait to read all of these books. I have already finished 1 book, so editing me do a cutesy little transition. Our first book that we were gonna read for this fall-themed reads vlog was Frankenstein, the original classic by Mary Shelley. And also, you guys, as I was playing my TBR game, and this was totally not planned, I had already planned these specific books mostly because I finished the audio of Frankenstein like right away, and I was just like, yes, perfect, we're fitting it into both games if we possibly can. Well, lo and behold, Final FMC, the game, gave me a prompt where I was able to use Frankenstein as one of the books. I loved this book so much the first time. I had no idea going into it that this is what it was going to be because, like, I had such a, I wouldn't even say preconceived notion of what Frankenstein is. I just kind of saw different versions and variations, and it confused me on the original because it was so not what I see on TV. I was not expecting what I got, but I appreciated everything that I read, and what I read was so much more thought-provoking and I almost want to say satirically bent in a way. And come to find in the game, for the TBR game, one of the prompts that I had to fulfill, and the prompt that I had to fulfill for Frankenstein was read a young author. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't for Final FMC. I did use it for one of the killer prompts, I believe. This was in Lord of the Reeds. Oh my goodness. How can I forget? There was a prompt of some kind, either a mission or an actual prompt, to read a book from a young author. When I tell you it was kismet, honestly, that I looked up some young authors, I was not expecting much, okay? And it gave me, first of all, it gave me a list that was YA authors. Then I found the list of younger authors, and all of them I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have these books. They all seem to be very much classics because they were young when they wrote this stuff. Which is honestly even more impressive now that I think about it, because looking back, the way that the language was then, it was so much more elevated. It almost felt like it was an entirely different time where it was almost like how we would think royalty would speak, you know. And it was just proper English at the time. Every single person spoke it, and it feels so elevated. Anyway, I digress. So I looked up that list, and there was a few that I was just like, oh, I want to read these books, but I don't want to spend the money to buy the book. Maybe I could find it on Audible. I don't freaking know. Like, I saw Anne Frank and, you know, her famous diary that she wrote as a kid. Like, I wanted to read that, and I still want to read that. That's on my list. I saw Mary Shelley, and it said she wrote Frankenstein at freaking age 19. Bro, I was having an existential crisis and mental breakdowns every other hour at 19. Okay, I wasn't here. I was on another plane. I lost that year of my life. I don't know what happened. I'm surprised I lived through that, to be quite frank with you. The way that my mind was blown, the way that I was so much more impressed with this book, the way that I looked at this book after reading it, because I'd already finished reading it, but to have that type of work that questions all of life and humanity and morality and ethics and just like where we come from, how we came to be, like, what? You did that at 19. You did that at 19. Girl. And truly, it goes beyond the making of what turned to be a monster. But really, Frankenstein, the creature, was no monster. In fact, if you look at it, the creator that made the creation was a little bit more monstrous and devious and ethically towing a line that should have never been towed. Like, this author goes into the thick of playing God. Can I just say also, it's very timely. Let's be real. There's a lot of movies out there where people are trying to play God, mess with genetics, mess with other scientific things, some with animals. We're seeing stuff even with humans. And it's like, it's interesting to go along that path too, because also for my sci-fi class, because I took a sci-fi class, I had to read this one particular work. It was a short work, a short story, could read in one sitting. The power of that book though, and that message, not book, short story. The power of that short story, that message, the way that world messed with genetics to a whole other extent and really like went in on it, and the way that Frankenstein was talked about and how the author goes in on it. You know, I think it's a good conversation to have, and I think honestly it's a great classic to, if it's not already in all literature courses, to bring back into literally all literature courses for high schoolers, because it deals with so many poignant discussions that they need to start thinking about and starting to develop their own opinions on, and realizing that this world that Frankenstein, the creator of the monster, was trying to go for, what a lot of science seems to be leaning towards, and not necessarily, again, not necessarily with humans, although that is the thing that is happening, but also animals. It's like, this is what can happen when you add this other layer to it, and you know, what do we think of that morally, ethically? What are we talking about here? What do we think about it? Like, you know, having that discussion and not being afraid to have that discussion, because listen, you got to think of those things. You got to think of the consequences of our actions once we have the thing in front of us. We can't be like Frankenstein and regret all of our life decisions leading up until that point we have to think about the aftermath of it, and not just a positive aftermath, a negative aftermath. Not because we are paranoid or we're trying to think of the worst, or we're skeptics, or we're negative Nancy's or whatever. No, it's because once the thing is there, and this once non-sentient object is now sentient, what are we gonna do about it? Because it's like freaking, like, almost like Ultron. Like, you know, he turned out good. He could have turned out bad. Hence the other guy. Like, you know, and sometimes, like Frankenstein, the monster, not the creator, they can turn on their creator. Because it's like, you put me here, and now you don't want to deal with me. Well, guess what? Now I'm gonna take control. And it gets bad. And it gets bad. Like, playing God never ends up well for anybody. But also, like, let's talk about it. Why does it not work out for everybody? Why is playing with what is natural, why is playing with what is already just so amazing, why are we doing that? Why are we afraid of it once we create it? Why do we not have control over it? Why do we think we do have control over it once it happens? You know, so there are so many questions. And like, none of this, by the way, none of this is like pointed or accusatory. I'm just saying, these are questions, these are things that are brought up into this story. And I think it's a very timely story because honestly, with the way that science is going, with the way that tech is going, we are just a couple generations away maybe from brilliant minds being able to form human beings, or, you know, our lookalikes. You know, AI is getting more and more real, but we all know it's still not human. And whatever we can create through science, could it be sentient? I don't know. Questions to be asked, but I loved this read through. Let me just tell you, I love the read through. I love the narration. I love the way that the author speaks and articulates herself and all of these different hard topic points. I love the storyline itself. I love how it really gets into the thick of the past and how it does that. I love the different mediums of storytelling that is involved. I love our narrator, not just like the narration for the audiobook, but I love our narrator. He seems to be quite biased, but also at the end of the day, I feel like the bias is broken in its own way, in the right way. And I think that the ending that is had is the only ending that could have been had. And I think that the way that it came about to be is the only way that it could have came about to be. So I think all in all, this was a great and amazing experience. I definitely recommend this book to, honestly, to people in high school who are getting into literature, who are studying classics. I recommend this to people who teach, you know, literature, maybe even film, I don't know, other areas in that vein. I would suggest that. I suggest this book to anyone who loves classics. I suggest this book to anyone who loves like think PC things, almost satirical leaning types of stuff. I suggest this to people who love stories about humans trying to play God and seeing how that turns out. I recommend this to people who don't necessarily mind a not so happy ending, but a complete, still fulfilling ending for what it is. I don't recommend this book if you don't want to go through all of the language of it all. I get it. I know that there are some people who don't like classics for the fact that just the way that they write in that time period, it was a lot. I do get it. I understand. Sometimes I'm right there with you. If you guys couldn't tell, I gave this book a 5-star, and now I am currently on Audible reading Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. Hi guys! So I wanted to make this a little bit more vloggy. So we are sitting at my mom's kitchen table. I have just finished purchasing my tickets to go see my sister, my adopted sister, in Colorado, and my little nephew, and of course my brother-in-law. And while I was doing so, I have been reading a little bit of Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. This book, the narration, the storyline, the characters, I am in. I am invested. So I've been listening to Rewitched for the past 2 days now, and I have about 5 hours left of the book, which is awesome because it's 12 hours. So I've already gotten past 50% at this point. And you guys, I really love the storyline. I love how it's reading. I love the pace. I love the style. And as I was going back over to look at, what this book was about, like its actual summary from Goodreads, I noticed this was a debut novel. And it helps explain certain things and the way that it is written, because I think there is a way that new authors write. And speaking as an author who hasn't debuted yet, I can speak from personal experience, and I can attest that there is a certain way that I think I write and others like me write for our first work, where you can tell that it's a first work, but not in the way that it's like bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a negative. Like, there are some times when I'm like, oh, you could tell that this was like the first time go through with a book, and that's okay. Like, even when it's more of that type of vibe of me saying that, it's still just like, okay, yeah, you can get better, obviously. We can always get better. We can always improve. But there is a certain feel of a first book that a lot of debut authors have, and there is the very rare occasion where you don't notice that a certain debut novel is a person's debut novel, if that makes sense, because it just seems so much like they have sat and, had the experience and all of this. And again, it's not bad, but I feel like there is a certain way that this is being written that makes me aware that it is a first time novel, and I don't mind it. I actually find it endearing. I mean, I probably would find it annoying in any other book and in any other genre, but the way that it is handled, the technique and the style within the story, it makes sense for what it is, and it's not annoying at all whatsoever. It's actually really nice, really smooth, and actually very endearing to the plot line as you go through. And I think this was a perfect choice of genre, a perfect choice of story for this author. And I'm really loving it. I really have no bad things to say. And unless it takes a drastic turn, I think I can predict a 5-star. Hi besties. Okay, we are ready for another reading update because you guys, I am literally an hour and a half away from finishing this book. And it's so good. It's so good. As I predicted, I do believe this is going to stay a 5-star. I don't know if I'm going to round out my thoughts on this until the reading wrap up, so stay tuned for that. This book is about a witch, and she's truly just trying to find herself, and she has the help of a bunch of fun, eclectic characters along the way, and there is a deeper underlying story that really is just beautiful, I think, where she is now 30 and she got her powers at 15. The world explains all of the details, so I'm not going to go into it. Plus, I only have a limited amount of time before I need to go in for choir practice, so I'm going to try and make this quick, this summary, because I know I didn't really summarize it earlier. I know I didn't really have much to say because I saw the summary, but I didn't really know what was going to happen. Now I'm about 90-95%, and so I can give a little bit better of a synopsis. Love that I put that commentary in the middle of the summary, so to just kind of remind ourselves what I was just saying was we are following along the story of a female witch. She's turning 30 at 15. She got her powers. They were manifested and has really kept her powers dormant ever since about her 17th year of life, because it makes it sound like she was about her magic and learning it and just the fun and the joy of having magic, and then it kind of tapered off, and then life got in the way, and about the time she went to college, which could be 18, 19, anywhere in there, she started to really assimilate to, being a non-witch person, and her non-witchy side is kind of how they describe that. And she works in a bookstore, which is awesome. It's around Halloween time, which is also awesome because witches, Halloween, the vibes are just there. So a perfect fall read. There is a little bit of spice in there as we go along in the story, as we meet certain characters. There's just so much going on. There's the non-witchy life of her living with her friend, just kind of where she's at in life, 30, single, no kids, and just kind of her feelings on that, and not really going for what she wanted to go for her career as well within the bookstore. Then there's the bookstore environment with the boss who wants her to take over, but then she gives it to the son because the son is just like there math-wise and finance-wise, and it's like really pushing everyone to like get the numbers, get the money, get all of this, then that, and the third, but he's really depending on everyone to pick up the slack in terms of the actual work, and he's just the one that gives like the yes or the no, and that's really all his job is. And so she's really fighting against him with that, and he's taking away the magic, if you will, of the place, and she wants to bring it back in her own way. Then, of course, she has this power that has lying dormant, and I mean, she uses it, but for daily tasks and stuff, she is too afraid to use it for anything bigger because she felt it kind of didn't work for her in the past when she tried to do bigger, because she wasn't ready, she didn't have the confidence, and yada, 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 all of these, like, different underlying conversations that I think are so good, about kind of everything that I said before of, her dating life, the way that she viewed herself, her confidence, her friendship life, her just her having to deal with the fact that she knows about this other world, and a lot of people who aren't witches, who aren't in that world, don't believe in that world, don't understand that world, don't know that world, and how it affects her and her relationships, and how each interaction just slowly just like chipped away at her confidence, and then her trying to find her own confidence in other things that aren't people and situations and magic and all of this. And it's just really cool to see all of that underlying. So we're really loving that. Also on the update, I started reading Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. I started reading that. Bruh. The way that book started. I just wasn't prepared for any of it. The first sentence had me just like, oh, it's that kind of book. Okay, cool. And then every sentence afterwards, I'm just like, oh, what is this? Who is this author? What is going on? I have never read a Stephen King book. I watched movies based off of Stephen King books. I have never read Stephen King, so I have no idea what the heck I'm getting into, but what did I get myself into? What was the... what is everything? I can't even tell you what is going on. I literally cannot summarize a book well on my own without having to read the summary on the back of the book until about 75% of the way in. Are you kidding? Which is why I was able to give a little bit more substance, I guess, if you will, for Rewitched. But also the fact is Rewitched is in the genre of like cozy fantasy, cozy, witchy, cozy, spicy, just like the cozy genre. And I'm not knocking the cozy genre, okay? But with cozy contemporary genres, you're living out the days. Like, the authors are pulling you into the characters' lives. You are really just, like, in the scenes, which is why, you know, the author gives you so much more, I feel, of the day-to-day details, minutia things that you need to be looking at and looking for, because it gives you the vibes of where you're at, and it's more realistic, right, to where you are in the modern world, with maybe a little bit of extra here or there. Okay, so, you know, 95% of the way through the book, and we are only a couple of weeks into this person's life. We're getting all of the details of the past and the history that makes sense for what we're getting in the present, but honestly, we've just been living a couple of weeks. 95% of the way through the book, okay? And I'm not saying that fantasy or sci-fi doesn't, like, give you all of the details through weeks and stuff, but you don't really feel the timeline. You are getting more of a movie snapshot. This all will make sense together in the end once you read the book, versus, like, the kind of almost boring aspects of the day-to-day that are not as action-packed, detail-heavy for the bigger plot pieces, and, like, little Easter eggshells, and, like, you're trying to find everything. Like, you have to be, like, in it and invested in just, you know, with the storyline of the book, and it doesn't feel like that, but it's kind of what that is, versus the experience of, oh, la-di-da, let's just read about a person's day. You know, it's kind of like YouTube versus just, like, TV, reality shows, other types of things. Even reality shows are more scripted, more drama, more action heavy than YouTube content for lifestyle people, okay? Because vloggers, you can just go about your daily life and people are just, like, so invested. It's like, yeah, let's all cook together, let's all clean together, let's, like, know the little snapshots of the day, let's get a little bit more detail, creating a day in the life that has, like, the story arc, versus a TV show that has an entire arc of an entire season, of a large span of time. And you get the highlights of each section, you still get the details, you still get everything that you need to know, and the quick snapshot, but it's more fast-paced. Am I making sense on that? Yeah, so anywho, so that's what we're kind of getting with Bewitched. And then to go to a novella of I don't even know what we're getting into. Like, this is reading true crime, but, like, snapshot true crime. This is reading, like, headlines true crime, like, not court cases, not full court days and trials going completely through, not a report that you typically get and hundreds of pages that you got to read through. This is more just like, this happened, then this, which led to this. Oh, and by the way, let me give you all of the details that connect them all together. And the reason that I'm telling you all of this, because guess what? This is about to go down. That's kind of just what it feels like to me. It feels like all of the, like, little, if you had the freaking cork board with all of the different pictures and the red line connecting them all, it kind of reads like that, versus kind of an overarching scenario. It's very weird. I'm, like, trying to describe all of this, and it's not coming out well, but I'm trying to make it come out well, because this is kind of what this video is about, is trying to explain. Oh, so cute. There's a little sticker. I don't know if y'all can read that. Let me hide my face. Can you guys read that? No? Not doing it for you? It says Shine Bright. I went to Ziggy's and I have a collection on my dash, but I don't think I'm gonna complete that tonight, just because I don't want to push myself to finish books. That's not what this was. This video, although I said, like, in the very beginning, it would be great if we read all three, and we had time to read all three, but life just kept getting in the way. Other things happened. Even with the audiobook option, it was a lot, and I barely got that in today. So, you know, it was never meant to be that. It was just meant to be a fun little, here are 3 fall themed reads. Do we like them? Do we not like them? based off of the read. Interestingly enough, Frankenstein was the only one that I read, and that was a 5-star the first time. It was 5-star the second time, and yeah, that was about it. The Rewitched is a 5-star prediction, and there is a second book in the series, and it's already on Audible, so you can bet that next month I am going to be getting that and reading through, because I am having so much fun with the romance that is happening. Like, that is like the least plotline thing that we are looking at. Well, actually, it's pretty big portion of the plot, because I mean, it just has to be, just because of how it's laid out. You guys will get it once you read it, but like, it's not the first thing that we think of, and not the first thing that everyone is prioritizing here, which is what I love. Okay, I love that we have a romance that is there. It's big, it's bold, it's obvious, it's part of the plot, it makes sense, the characters are great. I love both love interests, and both of them are just like you, but hey, there are bigger stuff going on. Let's focus on the bigger stuff first, and then let's deal with our crap. And I love that also. They are older adults, and they still don't know what they're doing. It's great, because I'm like, facts. Because I'm 25, I'm single, and I have friends who are older and single. And I'm like, yeah, this is exactly how we be. We never learned we're just as cringy as we are as when we're in high school. We just happen to have a little bit more maturity. Anywho, I'm wrapping it all up now, just because in case I don't have anything extra to add, I will put it into the reading wrap up. All of these are going in the reading wrap up and will be more expressive of my thoughts and my feelings, and I'll try to insert a little bit more of a summary. I like to try and do that, you know, when I do my TBR and or when I actually read them, but this was a kind of special case just because we're doing the 12 days of BOOKMAS, we're doing Vlogmas, we're doing other stuff this month, and life is just going to be very, very chaotic. So yeah, I'm gonna be wrapping it all up probably, and doing a little bit more with that when I actually do wrap up. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching, for taking the time out of your day to do so. I will leave all of my stuff linked in the description box down below, and I think that's everything. So I will see you guys tomorrow for BOOKMAS Day 4, or today in BOOKMAS Day 4, whichever happens to be the case. So, as always, thank you guys so much for being the absolute best bookish bestie that ever was, is, or ever will be. I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye!